Welcome back to the Watch It, Cook It kitchen. Today, I'm going to show you how I lifted my steak game. The interesting thing is, it's not about the marinade. It's not about the seasoning on the steak. It's not even really about the cooking method. It's about the cutting board. You might be wondering, what does the cutting board have to do with a perfect steak? Well, I'm going to explain with this simple but amazing method that lifts your steak game above the next level, and I'll have everybody that tries your steak going, wow! So if you're ready to lift your steak game to the next level, stick around. So it's straight to the stove. The first thing we're going to do is cook the steak. If you're like me, you were raised on seasoning steak before you put it in the pan, before you put it in that cast iron skillet. Season it, lots of salt, lots of pepper, and stick it in there. The thought process behind this is when you season before cooking, the cooking process can make the pepper a little bitter and can lose a little bit of the fresh saltiness. So now what we're going to do is cook a naked sirloin steak. This is an absolutely beautiful sirloin here with fantastic marbling and a nice amount of fat. It's going to cook really nicely and brown. While we're cooking the steak, we should know that it does dry out a little, but there's a certain magic to that with the step that comes later. Stay with me. This is going to change your steak game. And by the way, I think we all know you need a good hot pan to cook a good steak. So in a little bit here, I'm going to be putting the extractor fans on. Apologies for the noise. It's got to happen, or the sprinklers will go off, ruining a perfectly good steak. The skillet's nicely heated. It's time to take our naked sirloin and put it in the pan. There's a nice sizzle. Don't touch your steak. Remember, don't touch it. It needs to be in there now for about 4 to 5 minutes until it's developed a wonderful crust. And then we'll flip it. We're going to reduce the heat on the second side because this is a thick piece and we want it to get to an internal temperature of about 135 or so without burning the outside. There's a trick to that. I'll show you in a minute. Time to turn it. Oh yes, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful on that side. Just what we want to see. Now, we've got the sear started on the second side. Reduce the heat somewhat below medium so that this steak won't burn, but it'll continue to heat through. That's one of the steps that we're going to use to make sure it's cooked perfectly. In the meantime, we're going to go back to the cutting board and take the step that's the ultimate high-level steakery. So quickly, while the steak is doing, we got to get ready here. What are we going to do? We're going to season the cutting board. The steak has to rest when it's cooked, right? So when the steak's resting, it's going to rest in the seasonings. The steak becomes a sponge. The steak is drying out in the pan somewhat, and when you bring it out, all good cooks rest their protein. They rest their steak. And during that process, the steak becomes a sponge. It's going to lift the flavors that we've chosen to put on the board and bring them inside the steak, making an incredible festival of taste. You're going to love this. What have I chosen for my seasonings? You can use whatever you want. I have a little bit of thyme. Actually, I have a lot of thyme. I have some rosemary. Oh, I love rosemary on steak. I have a little bit of lemon. I'm going to take the rind of the lemon. That really lifts it. Salt, of course. We haven't salted the steak to cook it. We've got to salt it sometime. It's going to happen at the end. Finely chopped, kind of crushed and chopped garlic. The garlic is raw. It's going to be really strong, so don't use too much. Remember, nothing's losing its flavor in the cooking here. It's going to stay strong. Black pepper. I love lots of freshly crushed black pepper. I like some hot chilies also. You don't have to do that. Now finely chop all of these herbs here. And this just releases the aromas. I'm going to spread these out on the board. The steak's going to sit right on top. I forgot to mention, we got the butter. Where's the butter? It's not in the pan as we normally do. It's right here. It's going to go on top and melt with everything else here. I'm going to take just a little bit of the garlic and spread that around. Oh yeah, this aroma. And then the black pepper, lots of black pepper. Not to forget our handy little lemon here. Oh, that fresh citrus perfume. Goodness, this is amazing. I'm going to take now, I just kind of shaved some butter off the block. I'm going to take that and spread it out. I actually like my peppers kind of on the sides, so I'm just going to thinly chop these. Of course, a red chili pepper. I'm going to use a little bit of jalapeno. And I'll just put those to one side. I don't want them in the main mix there. I don't want every piece of steak to be red hot. I want to taste that amazing flavor that's coming off all of these seasonings here. This is the method. This is how it's done. Stick around to see it when it rolls and bathes in this buttery, herby, garlicky, citrusy, special event. What I also like about this method is when you're resting the steak, it's not just sitting there doing nothing but resting. It's working. It's absorbing flavor. So you rest it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you feel like. More of those flavors are going to get infused into your steak. Time to grab the steak. Oh, just look at the color on this. Beautifully cooked. It's sitting on the bed of flavoring. So now we're going to just roll it and let it have fun. Let it giggle. Let it get happy. It's a vacation for steak. You can see how the butter is starting to attach to the steak. Remember, the steak becomes kind of a sponge at this point. It's drawing in now instead of pushing out, and it's drawing in all of this flavor. I can smell it. It's incredible. The garlic and the citrus makes a difference. Try it. If you haven't tried a little citrus rind with your steak, do it. It lifts it again to a whole other level. So we're just going to roll this around and get it well covered. I'm going to take some of this seasoning and put it on top of the steak as I roll it, just so that I'm sure it's getting well basted and well covered in this beautiful buttery flavoring. Now, all that's left to do is let this sit. The next step while the steak is resting is the wine. Cheers. I think I lost track of time a little bit there, but do take a look at the beautiful coloring on this steak. It's a walnut dark brown, which is flavor. You're going to cut it on what we call the bias, which is just an angle. This looks nice, and also we're going to cut across the grain. Cut across the grain so that your steak is nice and tender. We'll start this side. We'll take the first cut and just look at the inside. Beautifully pink, even on the ends here. And as we go through, let's look at these beautiful colors of beautifully, perfectly cooked steak. Nice thick cuts. The knife is gliding through. This is when I like to salt it and toss it in the salt. You're getting the maximum additional lift to the flavor this way. Good amount of kosher salt over the top. Mix it all around. Maybe one more go, because meat loves salt and salt loves meat. And there we have it. Let's just put it onto a plate here so it at least looks presentable, or as good as I can make it. I actually like to eat this steak as it is, with no potatoes, rice, or noodles or something else with it. But that's up to you. You can do it either way. What I do like is to put a couple of spring onions on there. I like to take a bite of steak, a bite of spring onion, lifts that flavor. And also my chilies, my jalapeno and my red chili on the side here, so I can pick up some of that. And maybe just a little parsley to make it look even nicer for presentation. And there you have Just a beautiful dish to impress your friends, your family, and most of all yourself, which is probably the most important. I love learning techniques like this that lift everything to the next level. It makes me feel good. I'm glad I can share it with you. If you're enjoying the video, it's almost over. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you can catch the next one. We're going to keep doing stuff like this, all the stuff I love to cook and eat at home. Hey, you might like it too. So what's left now is my favorite part of every video, the tasting. Let's pick a good, wholesome piece of beautifully cooked and seasoned steak here. It is so tremendously good. The flavors are so rich and so true and so natural. So much so, I gotta now try it with a little spice, a little pepper on there, and really kick this up. That's it. Bite of this. I hope you enjoyed it. You're always welcome right here in the Watch It Cook It kitchen, and I sure hope we'll see you here next time.